to Shy Comic Girl. I'm so excited to introduce Patrick, which is one of the co-owners of Challengers Comics here in Chicago. His other co-owner, Dale, is not with us today, but Patrick's going to tell us all about the origins of Challengers Comics, and then I have some questions for you just about, how you got into comics, what you enjoy collecting. My first being, how did you get into comics?
Well, Haley, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for making the trek to Challengers itself to do this.
Of course.
Giving us the lovely backdrop of the store. I have an older brother who's 6 years older than I am, and he was reading comics before I was born. So I grew up in a house that had comics, and it was weird to me to find people that didn't have comics in their life. Like, no, they're part of your life. Don't you read them?
So of course, these magical things.
Yeah, of course. And so they've always been part of my life, forever. And yeah, my brother had this story that everybody, I guess, of his generation has, is he was collecting some, and then our mom threw them away. And then when I was there and we started collecting together, then we kept them, and we still have most of them. And for Christmas just last year, I bought him a small stack of the books that I knew he had that Mom had gotten rid of way back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were some of those books?
The first appearance of Adam Warlock and Thor, just a random, a very specific segment of time. A Teen Titans issue, 2 Captain Americas, a Batman. None of them, except for the Thor, had any really standout stories to them, but they were just what was out at the time.
Yeah. That's so amazing. So does he still collect as well?
Well, we collect together.
Together?
Yeah, it's our collection.
Oh, I love that.
The thing is now that as we are, adults and different people, we have vastly different tastes. So he likes things that are he likes a lot of the straightforward mainstream stuff, and I like a lot of the experimental and indie stuff as well. And there's plenty of things that, because I'll buy everything, I'll read it, then I'll pass it off to him, and then when he's done, he gives them back to me to go put them in storage or whatever. And sometimes he's just like, no, you can keep this one. I'm not going to read this.
So what is some of your favorite comics, if you like kind of the more experimental stuff? Like, what did you start collecting with, and kind of what are you collecting now?
I'm still a superhero guy at heart. That's my bread and butter. That's what I was reading all along. But I today's books that I love are 8 Billion Genies from Ryan Brown and Charles Soule, Do a Power Mom by Daniel Warren Johnson, Public Domain from Chip Zdarsky. I'm a Substack follower of his, so I've gotten to read the first 3.5 issues, even though the first issue just came out in print. And it's a really great family drama comedy all about creators' rights. It's weird to have a comic so meta that's about comic creators' rights, but it's a fun comic book.
Oh, that's so interesting. I have not read that, but that definitely needs to be on my list.
Yeah, it's really good. It's about a guy, basically it's like a Jack Kirby kind of guy who created the Domain, the most popular superhero of the modern day, and the Domain has a brand new movie out. They've done billion-dollar movies after one after another, and the sons of the man who co-created him are furious their father's getting no credit and not getting anything, and the father doesn't. He's like, no, I was work for hire, it doesn't matter. But it's I can't say anything else without ruining it.
No, that's okay.
It's really good.
I will definitely look into it. I love the Substacks that creators and writers are now doing, because you get to experience so much of the behind the scenes work as well.
Yeah, I love we as a store, the Substacks that we subscribed to were Jonathan Hickman, Chip Zdarsky, James Tynan, Kelly Thompson, Andy Stevenson, and Sophie Campbell. And those are the ones we paid the annual tier of. Then there's the free subscriptions we do, like Tom King and Elsa Chartier and
that
Brian
one is
K.
so
Vaughan.
good.
Yeah, Love Everlasting is so good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I'm so excited that Image picked it up and it's going to be printed. But I've been reading it through the Substack, and
there's some Substacks that go a little too deep into the creation of it, like the 3 Worlds, 3 Moons stuff.
That is really intense.
Yeah, so it's I just want the comics. I don't want all of this
the world building.
Yeah, exactly. And I know people love the world building, that's great, but I'm here for the comic. That's what I want. That's why Zdarsky is great, because every other week you get pages of Public Domain. The other off weeks you get Kaptara, and his regular weekly emails are so funny.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I've not subscribed to his.
Just get his free emails. They're so funny.
Okay.
There's 2 chips that talk to each other. One is in all caps, and he's usually yelling at the other one. Yeah. And Chip is so self-depreciating. It's
That
His
sounds like a
his
good
is
time.
our favorite Substack.
Okay, so
Yeah.
everyone watching, you have to sign up for Chip Zdarsky's Substack. What is like one of the comics that just really means a lot to you personally?
I've been a Captain America fan for my whole life, so long that I don't know why anymore, but I still am.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of everywhere. So, and the Falcon was one of my favorite characters growing up as well. So, like, at my core, I'm a 70s Marvel kid. And that's the stuff that always means the most to me. I don't care how dumb it was. It could be a random issue of Marvel Team Up where Spider-Man and Ghost Rider fight like the Melter or something. Like, it just, like, that is the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
So, unabashedly, just 70s Marvel stuff. Just if it has the Marvel Comics Group banner across the top, I'm totally into it. And that's the stuff that I still look for today. I don't care how beat up a book it is. If I don't have it, I'm like, I'll buy this.
You're like, this is for me now. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense because that was your childhood.
Exactly, and that is exactly why. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So you obviously have like a deep love for comics and are invested in comics in a really large way as we are in your store. How did this store come into being?
You know, it's funny. I never thought I would own a comic store, and I, like a lot of comic fans, wanted to be involved in art. I never wanted to draw comics. That wasn't for me, but I wanted to be a commercial artist. So I went to school for art. I have a degree in illustration. I have a degree in art history. And I was going to start my own freelance art company. So once I graduated college, I'm like, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks to do nothing before I start actively looking for clients and jobs. And I was at when I was young, I was buying most of my comics either at Brookhaven drugstore off spinner racks,
Oh, wow.
or Jewel in their magazine rack, and then we discovered a hobby store in downtown Westmont called Lyle's Hobby and Craft. It was basically a model train store that had a couple of spinner racks of new comics. So that was where we were getting our comics. Then my brother found another store. He was at that point in his life, he was a delivery driver, and he found a store in the suburbs, and he went in and looked, and they had this thing called a subscription service, which we'd never heard of before, where you got to, sign up and have your books pulled for you. So we started doing that, and we were doing that all through the rest of my time in high school and college. And I'd stopped in that store to get my weekly books on like a Friday in that 2-week period after college. And I went home, and then I got a call from that store's owner saying, hey, what do we ever say about you working here? Like, nothing?
You're like, I don't remember this conversation.
We didn't. He's like, do you want to? I'm like, all right. He's like, all right, come in Monday. So I went in that Monday, and that was in August of 1990, and I've been a full-time comic retailer ever since.
Wow.
I worked for them for a long time, met Dal there,
Awesome.
and then Dal eventually got another full-time job. So Dal was working 2 full-time jobs. I was, at that point, I was running their downtown store.
Okay.
And overseeing other stores in the chain, and Dal was running the flagship store out in the suburbs, and Dal was doing 2 full-time jobs. He'd work from 11 to 7 at the comic shop, and then 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. at Blue Cross Blue Shield, the medical billing company. He's like, because like the medical billing company was real money, and benefits and things. And then it just got to be too much, and he's like, so he wound up leaving the comic job, and then a month later saying, you know what, I kind of miss it, and I think there's a better way to do this. He came to me and said, what if we owned our own store? And I'm like, I never wanted to own a store. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the pressure. I don't want the tax payments and all the paperwork that comes with it, but
like being like a full business owner.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not just like, oh, we have like all of the cool comics and we're getting to read them and keep up with them. It's like you're an actual business owner.
Yeah, now you have to do all the business part of it, and I didn't train for that. I didn't go to business school. I went to art school. I went to school, but with an art degree. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I can understand.
But I'd been doing it long enough to know what had to be done, and at a certain point, it's like, I was doing this for 17 years with somebody else. Why do they get to reap the benefits of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And when one of your best friends says, hey, why don't we do this? You can't not try it. Like, you don't want that what if hanging over your head this whole time.
What if we had opened that comic shop years ago?
Yeah, right? So we opened Challengers, and it was tough in the beginning because it was right at the start of a recession. Sounds familiar. And
Definitely.
you know, it was a lot of growing pains and things. But we immediately made challengers into what we were never allowed to do elsewhere. And I kind of love it. I mean, this is not the comic store that I would open by myself, nor is it this comic shop that Dad would open on his self. It is ours together. So he and I are such different people that my weaknesses are his strengths and vice versa. So that's like you get a composite of the two of us. Yeah, like it's a lot more formal because of him, but it's a lot more fun because of me.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And like you get to see what a space looks like building it together, and I think that's really beautiful. So you had said that you kind of created this shop because you weren't able to do the things that you really wanted to in other shops. So how is Challengers different from a lot of the other Chicago shops? Like, what makes this you guys?
One of the great things about Chicago is that there's so many shops and they're all so different.
They are.
It's so
something I love.
Different.
So much.
Yeah. Oh my God. You want to pretend that you're still in the 1990s? You got stores for that. You want stores that like basically just manga? You got that. You got just the back issue stores or like the dollar bin stores? You got those. Challengers, when we open it, and I'm very happy to say that we're not trailblazers. We're not trendsetters. We there's nothing that we did that was like people's like, no one's ever done that before. But it's just maybe all of it together people hadn't seen. Like I was telling you before we started recording, we used to have a couch and chairs and end tables and things for people to, you know, get comfortable and be part of the space and like feel some sort of connection to it or some sort of ownership to it. Every single comic store that I've ever been to, you walk in and behind the counter is either rows and rows of dusty old back issues or magic cards or whatever. We're like, we don't want that. Behind our counter is just, we let people draw on the wall. That's it. There's
Which
nothing.
I will show you guys later. It looks so cool.
There's nothing for sale behind the counter.
Yeah.
And that is like most stores keep so much stuff back there.
Or like their higher end items or their wall books.
Almost like more than half the stores in the world have a slat wall, you know, the wood panel that adheres to a wall that has slats on it you'd slide shelves onto. And they all just makes it look the same. So we're like, okay, no slat wall in the store at all. And like once you start seeing slat wall in stores, you can't unsee it. And then
I know, now I'm gonna go into all of these shops and that's
they
all
all have
I'm going to see.
And then what's even worse is like it comes in like 4 foot by 8 foot pieces. You got to cut it and mount it to a wall. But a lot of people just do like, oh, we'll put this piece here, this piece here, and then it looks like it's floating on a wall. It looks awful. Like the stores that take the time to at least put it floor to ceiling and cut out all the electrical outlets and the light switches and do that and paint the ends or whatever. At least they're making some effort. But
They're like trying to spice it up.
We realize how overwhelming a comic store can be.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is having a lot of new readers who've been to the store because this store feels welcoming. And a lot of like some stores in the city just aren't. If you're a new comic reader, they're too overwhelming. So we try to not clutter the place. We don't want to fill every square inch with stuff. We do have more stuff than we want right now, but we had a second store that didn't survive the pandemic and looting, so we had to merge 2 stores into one. So we were a little bit more cluttered than we like to be. We don't like having stuff on tops of shelves and things, but we also don't put promo posters everywhere or just stuff. We celebrate Chicago how we can. We celebrate the artists that have been a part of our store, and we just try to make it open and airy and comfortable and inviting. And we try to make it easily understandable.
Yes.
Like how to find things. And over the years we've experimented, like, oh, we'll put like all the comics by publisher or, you know, by author or whatever, but most new comic readers, they don't even know who the publishers are, much less who publishes what, so who cares? So we borrow a lot from the bookstores, like genre. That's what people get. They get genre.
Yeah.
If they come in looking to read Preacher because they watch the TV series and they find it in the horror section, they'll be like, oh, other books in this section might relate to what my interests are. And then it's easier to, like, genre racking is half the battle recommending things to people, because people know if they like this one thing, something else in these shelves right here they might like as well.
Would be perfect, which is something that's, again, just speaks to the accessibility of what you're trying to create here. When I first started comic collecting and coming in here, like I definitely felt that, like being able to look through the shelves or the comic racks and it just being very easy to understand. And I love the fact that you guys do like kind of genre, like bulking them in genre, because I definitely have looked at things where I'm like, oh, I would have never seen that, or maybe have picked that up, but now that it's like in this space, you know, it again, they kind of correlate. They are in the same vein of each other.
Thank you for saying that. That's exactly what we're going for.
Yeah. So I think that you guys have really accomplished that. You guys do so much with the community in Chicago, so celebrating community. You guys have artists come out, so you've had like Jenny Frison signing, that just happened recently.
Yeah,
right?
It was last week. 2 days ago we had Adam Gorham, who is a Canadian artist who wrote and drew a Godzilla book, and he's in town for G-Fest, which is the Godzilla festival, which is this weekend in Chicago.
That is so cool. I did not know Godzilla Fest existed.
Yeah. There's a magazine called G-Fan, and it's spun out of that. But he did his own, like he had his own, it's weird to say, like he wrote and drew the book, but then he paid to have a specific cover made just for him to sell at shows. So he brought that here, and we've been lucky to have a lot of creators in the store since we opened, and we used to have an art gallery, and we used to do monthly art shows, and we would reach out to any artist we like, and it was like some local, sure, but some, like we got Eduardo Riso in from, and Gustavo Duarte and Rafael Albuquerque, all from Brazil, South America, and we got List Eman in from Canada, and other creators from just around the country. So we were trying to make it as international as possible, and we would put up their art, and they would do a print for us. We would sell a print. We didn't take money from the art sales, because I have a hard time saying, hey, Haley, you worked on this. You put your blood and sweat and tears into this page, and when you sell it, you're going to give us some money for it, because we hung it up in our store. So we went on to do that. So we would commission a print to sell during the show to make the money back for flying them out and putting them up and doing all that kind of stuff. And it was super fun. We'd had art openings, and it was a big party like every month, but we never sold that much art.
Yeah. And
we had the art up all month, and I could sit in the gallery and like stare at the art for hours. But people would like go in, and it's like 400 square foot room. They'd go in, take a lap, and come out in 30 seconds. I'd be like, what are you doing? Did you not see what was in there?
You're like,
oh, look.
Take it in, soak it in.
And then we realized like this is not working, so we got rid of the gallery and turned it into our all ages room called Sidekicks. But
which is adorable.
I mean, Sidekicks is the best thing we've ever done. But like doing those art shows helped us meet more people and get a better reputation, and signings were a thing we always wanted to do at the other place, but sometimes the attitude there was more like, well, what are the artists and creators going to do for us for doing this? When our point of view is like, hey, we love these people's work, we want to get it as wide as possible.
Yeah, and to really celebrate it.
Yeah. And most artists work in a vacuum. They're indoors all day, not talking to anybody. They don't know what the reaction is. They'll be talking and commiserating to their other artist friends and things, but it's rare that they get to be in a public space where people all say, hey, we like what you do and thank you for doing it.
Yes, which is to be like outside of especially cons, right, where they're getting to interact more intimately in a space like this. You have Wes Craig coming, and I have to say I am counting the days down.
Nice.
I love Deadly Class, so I cannot wait.
He's a very nice guy. He's also Canadian.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's one of the people that extremely flattering reached out to us and said, I'm going to be in Chicago, can I sign at your store?
That is amazing.
Yeah. Adam Gorham was the same way. It helps to have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And like there's people in the industry who I consider now extremely close friends of mine that I met from doing signings here. Not every signing is that way. There's people we've done signings with. It's like, okay, we did a signing with them, and we won't do one again. But not everybody has to be your best friend.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, there's people that have like, man, like I love these people as people, and interact with them outside of comics as a result of it, and that's pretty great too.
That has to feel so rewarding,
Yeah.
especially when you know that you've also really enjoyed their work, and then they're just such a great person. What is one of your like favorite memories of like a signing or?
Most of them involve alcohol. So we try, like, if somebody's coming in town specifically for us, and if we have the ability to, we will fly them in and put them up. Now there's better hotels in the Bucktown area. In the past there haven't been, so there's been.
Yeah, it's really, the neighborhood has shifted a lot.
When we first opened the store 14 and a half years ago, like, I can't wait to see what this town looks like in 5 years. It took 12 years for the neighborhood to really start to come up a little bit. But one of my favorites was Joelle Jones. We didn't know anything about her, but she was
amazing.
doing Helheim at the time. This is even before Lady Killer. So she was doing Helheim, and we're like, hey, do you want to come out and sign? And like, do you want to do an art show? Is what it was. And she doesn't like flying out for signings and things, but the art show idea, and she, I guess, talked to a couple people who'd done stuff with us before, so she took a chance. And normally, depending on what time of day they get in, or if, like, we try not to take up too much of their time. If they're doing an art show, we would bring them in, take them to dinner, do the art show, get them back to the hotel. In the morning, take them to breakfast, get them back home, so they're not losing all this time to work.
Yeah.
Like, we try to get people home within a day, within 24 hours of when they left.
Okay.
So the way the time worked out, Joelle came out a little early in the afternoon. So if we can, we take people to Club Lago, my favorite restaurant bar in the city in River North. It's an Italian restaurant, been in the same family for years.
I'm about to add that to my list.
Oh my God. I will take you to Club Lago. It is the best. It's my favorite place. And then if there's no time, we just go up to Block Palazzo's because it's right there and it's fast. And their margaritas are very strong. So it turns out that Joelle shares a love of 70s music like I do.
Okay.
So normally I try to have a group for, like, I want luckily Chicago has a huge creator landscape.
Yes.
There's so many people there. So I'll try to be like, bring their peers. Like, hey, I will ask like Mike Norton, back then Chris Burnham, Jenny Frizen, Scotty Young, do you guys want to come out and have dinner with Stuart Eman and whoever?
Is Scotty Young here?
He was here. He's not anymore.
I was like,
We used
I did
to,
not know
when
this.
he left, he donated his art table to the store, and we had his art table set up in Sidekicks for a very long time, but it eventually broke down.
ugh.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the, like, so we have a group, but for Joelle,
That
no one
sounds
was
like
available.
also the most amazing group of people. I'm like,
I just try to, like, to make them more comfortable, like,
Yeah.
maybe people they know, or at least other artists. Nobody was available for Joelle, so it was just me and her. And we had a blast, and we kind of got a little drunk.
that's great.
And then on the way back to the store, we were just screaming lyrics to 70s music in the car.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a horrible song called Billy Don't Be a Hero that actually charted multiple times with different artists. But anyway, that was the song that was playing at the end of the night when I dropped her off. And we made such fun of that song that I went and then recorded a cover version of it for her. Yeah, it's the dumbest thing. But like, we had so much fun during the signing that when it was over, I'm like, hey, let's still go out.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. She's like, let's do it.
You're like, let's keep this
Yeah.
party.
Yeah. So that's a great one. I got really, really drunk at Lazo's with Mike Norton and Sean McKeever before one of their signings, and the signing was a blast because of it. Yeah. Again, most of the stories involve alcohol. So.
No, but that sounds like
Yeah.
such a good time. Well,
So we haven't had a big party in a while. Like, our last big party was our 10th anniversary party. We rented tuxedos, had specialty cocktails made for us.
that sounds like an amazing time.
And then obviously COVID, so we stopped doing events for a
Yes.
while, when we're doing signings again now, but now so far they're just signings.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is they're all early in the day because everybody works from home now. So everybody has the ability to come out whenever they want.
Yeah.
And we're dead at the end of the day. Normally, like, we would do signings from 5 to 7 because that's when everybody would come in. Everyone comes in at 11 now. So we do signings at 11 and they do pretty well.
I will be here for the West Creek one. I'm
Nice.
super excited.
I won't because it's the Thursday before C2E2, and one of the distributors, like Diamond, used to always do like a retailer summit the day before.
Yeah.
Diamond's not doing it, but Lunar's doing one. So there's a
Okay.
retailer summit that Thursday at McCormick. So Dal and I will be at that.
Okay.
But you'll have Molly Jane and Stella here, so
Well, I
that'll
can't
be
wait to
fun.
hang out with them.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story about Challengers and sharing all of the really fun stories. Like now I need to go listen to that song, and I need to try this restaurant, and I have like Substacks I need to subscribe to. So thank you.
Haley, here's the thing about comics. They're the best thing ever. They have an unlimited budget, and there's nothing that can't be thought of that can't be on the page, right? And there's better comics now being published right now than ever before in comics. And I've been reading comics in the 70s, and I can say that with my firm belief of that. There are better comics now than ever before, and there's a comic for everybody.
There is.
No matter who you are or what you do, there's a comic you're gonna love. It's my job to show it to you, but it's your job to trust me enough to come into the store and ask me what you should read. And if you don't read comics, you should be reading comics.
Yes.
If you do read comics, keep reading comics. But also, it's people like you with your unbridled enthusiasm and just the general love and joy that not only you have with comics, but that you show and you share with people that really, I think, help get more people excited about the medium and realize, like, hey, you can get into comics right now today. You haven't been reading that long.
No, I haven't. It's been like a year and a half, and now, oh my gosh, the amount of short boxes I have and shelves
I mean,
with
you're in. You're dug in.
I am deep.
And-
I'm never coming back out. It's happening.
But it's because you don't want to.
Yeah,
like
no,
you,
not at all.
when you get your first comic, you never looked ahead and said, "I can't wait to start collecting comics."
Yeah.
That's not how it works. They just draw you in. And getting into comics now, people are so lucky because you have all the old comics to still read.
Yeah.
Graphic novels are still there. So thank you for being. I think you're more important to getting people excited into comics than we are, because we reach the people that come in.
Yeah.
You get people who come to you.
Well, and hopefully more people will be coming in. If you're in Chicago, if you come visit Chicago, you have to add Challengers to your list. It's such an amazing store. I'm going to give you guys a tour, which I know that I've done before, but now that you've been able to point out like some of the really amazing specific choices that you've made, I want to focus and highlight some of that.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Here are the sketches that Patrick was talking about behind the counter. Oh, these are so fun. So we have sidekicks. It's so cute. You have some art, Funko Pops. Some more Kenny action. This is the comic wall. And then as you can see the genres, we have sci-fi fantasy. Horror, manga. This is really great if people love manga. This store is amazing for that. Some crime mystery. I love the clocks. Some of the exclusive art prints.